Hello, we are live. We have what I have dubbed the Wave Wizard, Sheela Rahman, with us to go over coherent wave geometry and all her amazing work. Welcome, Sheela. And I'm not going to try to pronounce your musician name without you saying it first, so I will let you say it and try to repeat.
Zosar.
Zosar. All right.
Yeah.
Welcome, Zosar. Thank you for joining me. Looking
Thank
forward
you so much for having me.
to this. Yeah, fascinating, amazing work you have been doing. And I'm so glad you are doing it because it's what I've envisioned that is like the technology piece that's like the next step in my own transmutation of elements in my electrolysis hydrogen reactors. But we'll get into that a little bit later. Maybe we'll start off if you want to just give a brief description of what you're doing, what you're working on, and then you've prepared a special presentation for us.
Yes. Well, first and foremost, I am aware there's a huge lag going on the video, and my sincerest apologies for this.
It's
I just
okay.
have a older computer.
Don't worry. My viewers are quite used to it with my own Shanti equipment, so it's all good. So.
Okay, well, thanks for understanding. And if it gets too unbearable, I know it's hard to watch with the audio and the visual is not synced up, but I can do a little stop camera if that makes it a little easier to watch. But okay, so yes, my name is Sheela, aka Zosar, aka Zatheria, and I am a musician who was playing music around the world in clubs, live music, not to be confused with DJing. And I was doing that for years until I became a frequency scientist and I started discovering the secrets of the universe through understanding the geometry inherent in various types of frequency combinations and the applications as applied to various types of electromagnetic and plasma devices. So this is kind of where my research is at the moment. And I've prepared a presentation to give you guys a little bit more info on what that is all about.
Ooh, is it coming up? Can we see it? Is it lagging on my computer or yours?
Oh, no, I had it minimized.
Okay, there we go.
So if I hit the expand button here, let me see if that would be better, but...
Does that work?
Can you see that?
Yep.
Okay, so I am just gonna start going into it. So yeah, just stop me at any period and just interrupt me.
Good.
I cannot see the chat room right now because the presentation is taking up the whole screen. So yeah, if there's any questions, just BurnEye, let me know.
I'll throw them up for you.
Alrighty, okie dokie. So here we go. So here is some information on my latest frequency research. Today is July 9th, 2025. Okay, so I literally just pulled this presentation together like an hour ago. So I use like a couple slides from past presentations, but there's a ton of new slides that I literally just made for you guys. So, okay, so
we're
this is an image.
honored.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So level 1. What's level 1? Coherence. Coherence. Coherence is, I would say, like the buzzword in fringe physics these days because
breakthrough science, right? Because you know Bob Greenyer, and that's a big thing with everything he's doing is the coherent plasmas and waves and exactly what you're on.
Exactly. And I think for anybody who is trying to get to the next level of understanding from the physics domain, it's necessary to understand from the frequency universe exactly what this means, because ultimately it's one and the same, the frequency aspect and the physics application. So it's necessary to bind the understanding of these two universes. So just understanding the principles of coherence in frequency is number 1. And this is a very basic explanation of the difference between an incoherent system where energy is leaked and wasted, and it leads to immense amounts of incoherence in all systems. There's negative health impacts, but when you're thinking about these devices and, electrical circuits, the whole most important thing is that the system is incoherent with itself.
I fully get that. And a good example is, and we don't like to get into too much health stuff due to the YouTube rules and whatnot, but just for a warning out there of people working with these systems that are incoherent, where you have the wrong geometry. I'm not going to say the name, but there was someone that was selling supposed coils for health with where you put frequencies through it, and we had told him privately that the old coil geometry that he was using was bad, and he sent me one, and the moment I turned it on with this bad geometry, just like seized up, like just because it was this incoherent scattered energy going into you. And I've never used it since or turned it on because of the dangers.
Wow. Yes, I can go so deep into the fact that a majority of the technology in our modern age is leaky, to say the least. And when you have a leaky system, it's basically sapping energy from your body. Like if you're working with ungrounded electronics, then your body is the ground. And most electronics are not properly grounded, period. And even if they are, the electrical grid system in America is not even properly grounded. By design, maybe not.
I think so. I'm fully on board with that and know exactly what you're talking about. So the pictures you have up there, if I'm not mistaken, the one on the left is a type of frequency you put through 440, and the one on the right is 432 of the same hertz or free. Sorry, explain. My apologies.
Yeah. So yes, that is correct. The majority of the combinations of frequencies in the 440 tuning system generate sorry for the glitch, generate incoherent systems, which is what you see on the left. In a coherent system where all of the frequencies are operating under harmonic resonance, everything is more efficient. So there are less leaks. There's more energy to be used for the purpose of what the thing is made to be used for. So, for example, in the 432 just intonation tuning system and Pythagorean tuning system, which we're going to actually get into. More of these geometries are coherent. So that's just a fact. Nobody can deny that at this point. So, okay, so that's just the basics, ground zero, coherence. And I just wanted to show you guys really quick a few of my recent coherent geometry frequency art pieces, which is really, really exciting. Wow. And this is like my life's work right here.
Like all the sacred geometry symbols as frequencies. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, so every single one of these geometries that you see here was generated with a combination of frequencies. Some of them might even just be 2 frequencies. Some of them might be 3. Some of them might be 4. Some of them might be 5. And it's all about finding the mathematical relationship between 2 frequencies, or 3 or 4 or 5, to generate these different shapes. And I'm going to get deeper into the basics of how to attain knowledge over that process. So let me go on. And again, I'm just so obsessed with having people understand exactly the difference between coherence and incoherence. And this is a really good way of understanding. So just to give everyone a little background, coherence is a term used to describe the alignment, synchronization, and orderly relationship between different elements of a system. In various fields, coherence refers to how well components work together in harmony, amplifying each other's effects. Coherence describes the phase relationship between 2 waves, such as light waves, sound waves, rhythms in a biological system, and more. When waves are stable and coherent, they have a constant phase difference and their peaks and troughs align predictably. This alignment allows for constructive interference, amplifying the wave's effects and making the energy inherent in the system flow more efficiently towards a common goal with the least amount of waste and leakage produced. Quantum coherence refers to the property of particles like electrons or photons maintaining a fixed geometrical quantum phase relationship. Coherence in quantum states is essential for phenomena like quantum entanglement and superposition. In all cases, coherence represents a state of alignment, order, mutual reinforcement, increased power and efficiency and clarity in a system. And we're going to get more into the water aspect of coherence in a few slides, but I just really wanted to say that definition out loud. And I'm not going to read the incoherence one, but you guys probably get the idea by now.
I absolutely love that. And it's so in line, well, yeah, I guess in coherence with my own little theory I've put forward recently, which I call the misinterpretation of the double slit experiment, where I say that the misinterpretation happened that a particle is in fact a field, in fact, well, a bunch of nested fields together created of coherent standing waves, so that there's nothing actually solid about the inner atom. It's actually nested fields, the valence shells, and they are made up of these coherent interacting standing waves in each shell. And I'm just going to very momentarily bring up these, there we go, this slide, which is the sound bubble, but I believe that it is actually sound and light waves together making up those coherent nested valence shells of matter. But that's just a matter of one idea that kind of goes with your presentation.
Absolutely. And it's interesting because I definitely think a lot about these different shell structures around a fundamental frequency, since frequency is spherically projecting out longitudinally, and each layer of the sphere is related to the layer before it through a ratio, right? Through a ratio. So level 2 could be like 4/3 of level 1, for example. And these ratios are different based upon the particle, based upon the source. And this is the whole basis of a lot of my research as well, is understanding what systems resonate, what spherical harmonic relationships, depending on the properties of that system. So one example would be the Earth. The Earth has different bands of resonances emanating out of its different spherical layers, depending on the, first of all, the mathematical calculation. Second of all, the calculations of the density of the ionosphere and the magnetosphere. And there's all these calculations that are going into the ratios that govern the different bands of Schumann. So for example, 7.83 would be the first band of Schumann. The second band would be 14.3, which is a 1.83 or 1.8254 something ratio, right? So this would be one example of different ratios that govern the shells of a spherical system. So
Like
I have a whole lot of research around that as well. But yes, it's a very relevant topic, spherical harmonics.
right? The music of the spheres.
Totally. Yeah, I have a, well, this is loading back up again. Yeah, well, I'll get into it in a sec. There's a slide about it. Okay, so back to it. Okay, so yeah, so if anybody has seen some of my presentations from the past, like Cosmic Summit,
Yes.
I had this hilarious, like ghetto handwritten chart of my notes on this interesting process. And I actually typed it up in a more clean way. So you can actually see kind of what is going on. So, okay, so wait, can you hear me? Am
Yes,
I glitching out?
Loud and clear. We're good.
Okay. So, yeah, we're not even going to talk about 448. That's just a construct that I'm deleting from my reality. So in terms of 432, there's actually quite a number of 432 systems out there. And specifically, I focused on 3 different ones. Now, between those 3 different variations of the 432 tuning systems, each one had slightly different frequency ratios for some of the notes. So for example, if you look at the chart on the right, and if my audio is glitching out, I can change some settings. Just let me know.
Oh, you're good. Can hear you
Okay.
good.
Okay. So yeah, so on the chart on the right, For example, take a look at diminished fifth voice.
Yeah,
You see how there's 3 different rows.
I see that.
So those would be 3 different tuning systems, would each have a different bass note or fundamental or ratio for that particular note, right? So one of them was 45/32, one of them was 1.424, one of them was 7/5. So those are 3 different variations across 3 different variations of 432 tuning systems. And several of these were the same. So the ones with the star next to it are the ones that had a variation of multiple possibilities across these 3 different variations. So basically what I did is I put every single combination of all 3 variations of the 432 tuning system into the oscilloscope with the goal of concocting the collage of the most coherent geometries. So the one on the left is the consolidation of the ratios that created the most coherent geometries in the oscilloscope. So these very specific combination of ratios and fundamentals, I don't know if that specific combo exists exactly like that anywhere, because it was almost collaged from 3 different variations, which have their own sets of reasons why each of those 432 tuning systems were nested in the ways that they were. And I have so much information about that too. So I don't think this one is by any means the best one out there, but for my specific goal, this is what I'm working with right here. So when I use my keyboard for making the 432 video with coherent geometries, these are the frequencies that I used.
Okay, I get what you're saying there. I like that.
Yeah, and a lot of musicians know this, but I really want everyone to know about this, because especially the physics people out there, because this is kind of really going to open up a lot for you if you tap into it. So to understand the way in which these harmonics are propagated, first you have to take a look at the fraction. So let's start off on the left side. We'll just do one example. We'll do G because that's easy to understand. So on the left column where it says fifth, there's a G. And then in the column next door, it says 3/2. Do you see that?
Yep, yeah, see that column next to
Okay.
that 1 or 1.5, then 3, so you're doubling each.
Yeah, exactly. So, for majority of people, they might already know this, but I think like a lot of people don't know that. So that the fundamental for each one of these notes is actually a ratio that is that turns into a 2-digit number. So 3 divided by 2 is 1.5, and then it's doubled. So I just really want to make sure everybody understands that one basic concept before we move on.
Okay, we got her.
Sweet. Okay. Alrighty. So
Ooh,
at some point, I guess you could say, was searching for more, and I wanted to basically understand more about these fractions because, like I just explained, each of the fractions becomes reduced into a number. And what I did here, this took me a very, very long time to type this out.
It's very, very professional and well done, like super impressive charts.
And I'm definitely, not the first person to do this. I'm not going to be the last, but this is a chart they give you in elementary school. All it is a list of fractions. Basic fractions. So when you start at the top row, 1/1, 2/1, 3/1, and then the column 1/1, 2/2, 3/3, 4/4. So as you can see, all of these ratios, fractions, are being reduced into the decimal interpretation at the bottom, which is in bold. Okay.
Gotcha.
Okay, so this is just foundational, important part of this next slide. And each of these systems is like building off of the next. So as you can see, I started with the 432 and just understanding that system. And then I had this other one, which not only includes every single ratio in the 432, which if you look at that third column on the left, you see like there's a few ratios, 12 ratios. But this includes all of the ratios in the 432 and then all of the other ratios. So it's basically all of the ratios of all time. And also this chart extends into infinity in both directions. FYI, this is just like a basic little
Just a
33.
basic unified field theory chart,
Okay, so are you ready for the next level?
Yes, let's go there. Each level is a dimension, right? These are magnitudes we're going up.
Well, there's actually even layers between each one of these. This is just, this is just covering the basics. Okay, so now I started taking it to the next level and I started seeking out what geometry was created with that ratio. So I started mapping out the geometry the multiple geometries that were created with each ratio. So let me explain this more deeply. And I just want to preface with this. Each one of these ratios creates many geometries. Each one of these geometries is created with many ratios. So in other words, they're not mutually exclusive. However, the correspondences you see here are in fact permanently, completely, totally bound together as a fact, even though there's many more. So, okay, so let me give you an example.
It's not mutually exclusive, but for the ones that are showing, they are that every time, is what you're saying. Like
these relationships, like we'll just start from, let's go to 3/2 again, since we already did that. So the second row, second column, 3/2. So 1.5 is going to generate the 5-petal flower or rose curve if the other the amplitude and ratios are at a certain, and the time variables are at a certain measurement. So 1.5 always could yield a 5-petal flower. depending on a few conditions, which I'm going to get into. So these are going to always be bound, although 1.5 could also generate a inverted flower with 3 petals, for example. So just because this correspondence is factual and permanent, it doesn't mean that the 1.5 isn't also going to generate multiple other geometries. So I just want to make that clear so people don't think like this is the only geometry that's going to come out of that ratio. And let's see. Any of these flowers, I call them flowers of light because these geometries, these are toroidal geometries, which represent atomic spin at a quantum level. They represent not only the geometry inherent in quantum particles, but also the geometry inherent in cosmic orbital cycles of planets. So ultimately, in my opinion, like these are the most important geometries that nobody knows about. And I mean, of course, some people do, but in terms of like the types of use cases these could be used for is just, well, they're very powerful is the thing, is like they have so much power in them that of course they're going to be shunned from the public. So yeah, these are really important sacred geometries. These are like source code of reality here.
They are the source code. I get that. I get what you're saying, and that it's like when you're combining them, and with what I was saying of the nested fields of coherent standing waves, that's exactly what these are. And that when you're putting together the same ones of light and sound together into it, that's how you're getting the resonant frequency of the atom and, well, what's creating our physical particles.
Exactly. And one way to try to understand more about these shapes is like think about angular momentum of a perpetual motion geometry. So if the circle would be representation of the slowest movement, and then the infinity would be slightly faster. Each one would be increasing in angular momentum speed as you increase the number of petals. So that's another interesting thing to observe. And I mean, I have a whole list of applications that these could be used for. And I mean, they actually are in very high level, physics paper, perpetual thrust cycles of shuttles and rockets. Like they have to know all the mathematics of these curves, and they need to come into the public mainstream more. So that's why I'm doing this. But
we appreciate it. It's amazing work.
Totally. And I'll give you one really interesting example of something I did recently with one of these. So, you know how earlier I was talking about the spherical harmonics of Schumann bands being represented by specific ratios between each band?
Yes.
And yeah, so those different bands of Schumann are both able to be calculated through equations, but they're also measured by, for example, the Tomsk is one of the people or organizations who measures it in, I think it's Russia. And so you have these different measurements of the bands of Schumann, and each one is a different ratio. And it's not like all the same ratio. Like some people might want to use like, you know, phi harmonics to create a cascade resonance series with Schumann, but to understand each one of the bands, I think is important, and what each one means and how it's calculated. So yeah, I just want to drop that seed there for now. But if you look at the bottom row, 1.83, 11/6.
Okay, sorry, I'm
Do
just
you see
removing
that?
myself so people can see. Yes, I do, but I gotta keep removing my screen
So
for if it was.
can you see it?
Yeah, 11/6, the 1.83317 petals.
Yeah, exactly. So that ratio, for example, would be the ratio between the first and second band of Schumann, which is 14.3 and 7.83. So if you take 14.3 divided by 7.83, you'll get about 1.8, close to 1.83. And when you put that into the oscilloscope, it gives you a 17 petal flower that's like spinning a little bit. And I had this download that 17 petaled flower was like a stabilizer, like that geometry was a stabilizer of
Really?
those first two bands. And yeah, this is like a whole crazy thing.
Hey, no worries. I get the downloads too. I know how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, it goes 100 layers deeper. Like I literally went to like Bradshaw Ranch and I put the 17 petaled flower on the grid because Bradshaw Ranch is an interdimensional portal where the membrane is ripped. And so, yeah, I went over there and I laid down that 17 petal flower to start to stabilize the portal. And then, like, I had dreams through that geometry. Like, when I dropped that geometry down, like in a post on a poster, it was crazy. Like in my dreams, I could access that Akashic point in time space through the geometry through in my dreams.
So
And it
you're
was,
literally testing and like explaining how the like ancient mandalas and like the mandala symbols essentially work, and they're like a 2D portal, I guess, is what kind of in a way for the dream state.
yeah. Yeah, there's something, you know, I don't know exactly how it works at this point, but all I know is like if I was standing at a point in time space and then I meditated and imprinted and entangled my consciousness with the geometry at that point and left it there, then in my dream that night, not only was I able to astral project or whatever the term would be to that specific point, I could also access the past of that particular point. Like I was shown, it was a dream where I was shown the what was happening at Bradshaw Ranch like 50 years ago when it was a movie set, when John Wayne, Elvis Presley, and the Bradshaw family were literally filming movies at Bradshaw Ranch. And I accessed that information that was stored in the Akashic field, like through my dream space after I
That's
dropped that
oh, wow.
geometry. So, I mean, that could be like an application for,
that,
more
that right
metaphysical.
there. That right there is Sheela Rahman, Wave Wizard confirmed. Wave Wizard confirmed.
Totally. So that's like one of the more metaphysical uses. But I mean, yes, I also work with physics like physical devices and coils and antennas. And these are also antennas. If you wire them up and import input and output sounds into them, you can use them as antennas in different ways. You could even put in the actual frequency that generated the sound into the shape for the highest level of coherence. And I'm just planting seeds here, because if the shape of your device is in resonance with the frequency you're playing into the device, your efficiency is going to go way up. If you're an electrical tinkerer.
Right. Well, and we've gone deep into that on this channel, and specifically about getting your circuits and your systems into harmonic resonance with themselves. And from that point, then being able to tap or pump them. And we're
Wow,
in coherence together.
Wow, I would love to see those videos later. Send me a link, please.
100%. And at the end, I'll probably, if you don't mind, I'll send the link to a couple of the guys also working on that stuff that I'm sure would love to discuss a couple things with you before we're all said and done.
Absolutely. Okay, so one last thing, because I really want to cement this actual explanation, which I didn't even give an actual clear explanation of how one of these would be generated. So let me just give a really, really clear explanation. Okay, so let's go back to our example, which is 3/2 in the top left, second to left, second to bottom, or second to top. Everyone see that? 1.5?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so this 1.5 is considered a equation. So if you take any number, we'll say 333. All you have to do is multiply that number by 1.5. And then what do you get?
We get that specific one.
You get
that geometry, or no?
Another number.
My bad, I failed.
So like this is a secret hack. So if you want to quickly figure out two numbers to use, just say 333 and 222. So the number 222 times 1.5 is 333. So that is going to help you remember, because it's encoded into the numbers here. So, okay, we'll start with 222. So if you take 222 and you multiply it by 1.5, then you get 333. Now you take those two numbers and you convert them into sine tones. So you have two frequencies, 222 and 333. And when you combine them together, you put them into the oscilloscope and you get a 5-petaled flower. So I just wanted to make that clear. So
okay, so it's like a multiplication chart of geometries, essentially.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you could say that. But and this is a total work in progress. Like I said, there's a few things I want to continue to add other than the additional geometries. Like as you can see with 4/2 next door to 1.5, you see there's two geometries, for example. So that was just one case where I put two different geometries, but again, they all have many geometries. But in the future, if I want to expand this, I would probably want to add more geometries, at least one, because there's usually like at least two main ones. One is a flower, one is a inverted flower, like the I think like the Venus orbital, like how it's like an inverted petal system. So I would want to add that. And I would also add the z-axis. The z-axis is time. And briefly to explain the 3 XYZ axes of an oscilloscope, the acronym is FAT, FAT. Frequency, amplitude, and time.
That's what gives the fat beat, y'all.
Exactly. So XYZ, FAT. So just ingrain that into your brain. Frequency, amplitude, and time. These are the 3 variables being calculated in each of these geometries to attain those images. And these geometries will only be this specific geometry with this specific level of symmetry, not to be confused with coherent. The symmetry would be different based on the z-axis and the amplitude ratios. So let's start with frequency. Frequency is already encoded into this. It would be based on the ratio only. Amplitude ratios are important to be very aware of. Most people don't talk about it, but amplitude ratios will determine whether this will be a flower or a star. So that is one of the correspondences of the properties of the shape based on the shifting of the amplitude ratios. And then number 3 is the mysterious and esoteric z-axis, which represents time. And the z-axis is also a factor that enables the unfolding of the shape in this particular way. So every single one of these geometries has a different z-axis, which in the future I hope to put in at the bottom. For example, 1.5, to get that exact geometry, I would put in a example specific correspondence of the z-axis, which could be 500 milliseconds, for example. I don't know if that's correct, but yeah, it would be measured in milliseconds, for example. That's the z-axis. So just want to make sure everyone is clear.
Makes sense.
And this is just to show you guys how freaking long it has been taking me to make this. This is, that little chunk was just like the top left-hand corner, which in itself took me days and days and days and hours, because every single geometry is made with the oscilloscope with tons of trial and error, tons of, trial and error. And like completing this was like catching Pokemon. I'm showing you guys my Pokemon cards collection. Like, you have no idea what it took me to get to this level of finding all of these correspondences. And there was a point even last year where like I was like, oh my gosh, I gotta find the 23 petaled flower. What is the ratio? And I started going on these like quests to find each one of the flowers. And then finally, a few months ago, I found the formula where you can generate any of them easily. And I'm sure so many people have probably done this. I don't know.
Maybe not. I think you might be the first. Either way.
Yeah, yes, I definitely have. I definitely have a few little people, like infographics on the internet that I saw that had like just the basic ratios from the 432. And people had made the rose curve for each of those ratios. There's like one on the internet. I'm sure everyone has seen it. And that was actually one of the first infographics that inspired me to catch more of those Pokemon. Sorry, my computer
All good.
started going slow for a second.
But right, that's real science. Is it takes a lot of work of trial and error and figuring things out, calculating, testing, and then making sense of it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so yeah, around the same time that I had made this, it's funny because a couple other people had been having similar downloads. And yeah, one of them was my friend Nate Martin. I just want to give him a shout out because he has been working on some interesting oscilloscope programming software as well that is super in alignment with all of this that I'm doing here.
Question.
And yes,
Where is Nate Martin from?
he lives in Washington.
Okay, sorry, different Nate Martin. My apologies.
Yeah, I hope to get him on the show pretty soon and pick his brain about all of this because he's got a lot of knowledge. And there's also one more person I want to mention who is, oh my gosh, like he is next level when it comes to converting these sacred harmonics into playable frequencies. And this is the late and great Irv Wilson, one of my biggest heroes of all time. Irv Wilson, he was a master of converting systems of mathematical harmonic ratios into playable tuning systems. And he has, he has a tuning system called the coprime grid, which is pretty similar to this. And there's an app called Will Sonic that you can download where somebody named Marcus Satellite has transcribed Irv Wilson's tonality circuit maps into playable applications on the phone. So he's taking sacred geometry and converting it into tuning systems that you can play as a musician to encode the harmonic relationships into your field, which I think is like more intelligent forms of musicianship and tonality, because it's actually entraining your field into understanding different harmonic relationships, as opposed to the 440 system, which is absolutely the opposite. It's disconnecting us from our fields, understanding the depth of these relationships. So that's why I call these aether correction codes. So yeah. And
love that.
Yeah, so there's also the lambdoma. If anyone's interested, just Google that. That's another very similar type of system that is looking at these same relationships, which again, it's just basic ratios, but it's a very complete way of looking at reality, and gives us a lot of information. So alrighty, okay. So yeah, so do you have any questions so far?
Not off the top of my head, but I have many written down. I'd just like to say welcome Nathan, Old Man Built, with us. And Nathan does work with Tesla coils, resonating circuits and systems, and plasma. And what you are talking about, as I lose track of my thoughts, it's amazing. And the 440 versus the 432, is it that they intentionally took us off of this natural, coherent, like you're saying, aether correction, because by disharmonizing, discoherenting the oscillation of our sound, what we're listening to, what we're broadcasting, is that what disconnected humanity from the abilities of, like you're saying, it's quantum coherence of like telekinesis of your dream state of your soul memory, essentially.
Yeah, 100%. It is an agenda, and there's a lot to say about that. But ultimately, if you really want to reduce it into simple understanding, just know that the goal of the false matrix overlords is to make you as incoherent as possible. And your goal in this video game of reality is to become as coherent as possible in your body, in your mind, in your spirit, in your music. Coherence is power. And the controllers of the world do not want you to have that power. So they will do whatever they can to discombobulate your connection to source and to coherent. So yeah, so this is part of the, what I'm doing is part of the agenda to empower people to take back control over the coherence of every single system of their reality, because that is where true power lies. Internal stability, internal coherence. That's when your light radiates like a ball lightning, when you become coherent inside of your own body. And the number one way to do this as a human being is to start meditating. Really, meditation increases your light quotient more than anything else. It allows all of your systems to come back into coherence, back into balance.
You have to realign your chakra.
You do, and it's all of the systems of your biology. Just like those images I played in the beginning, the incoherent, chaotic, crazy system is literally what a human being's field looks like when they're stressed, when they're anxious, when they're confused, when they're overwhelmed. Mm-hmm. But the good thing is there's an easy solution. The easy solution is stillness. It's coming back into the center and meditating. And yeah, I'm very passionate about this topic.
I absolutely love that, as am I. I always speak about how you got to reach the stillness, right? The quiet, the center point of your own coherent consciousness to connect then to source, and from that stillness be able to go out, right? And so bang on with exactly what you're doing and what you're talking about. And that by putting us onto the 440 hertz, it's created this static field, and you're literally doing God's work by putting us back onto the 432.
Yeah. And there are many people, so many people out there who have the same divine mission of adjusting, correcting the tuning systems back into coherent quantum structures. And yeah, I just love this whole topic. But the most important thing when it comes to music, the thing that's even more important than the tuning system is absolutely the intention. The intention is actually number one in the hierarchy of importance, because the intention, if somebody has a coherent, strong, divine intention, that intention can override any quantum incoherence of the tuning system that they've used to make the music. 100%. So this isn't to ever say that anyone should feel like they shouldn't make music because they don't have access to the, coherent tuning system instruments. Like, your intention is more important because it's so powerful. It's the most powerful thing. And people don't realize that their intention has the power to shift the quantum structure of an object. You know, like just by thinking about something, you actually increase the amount of photons and the light quotient in something. And that's like, you know, scientifically proven how powerful our directed thoughts are. It's our currency. Coherence equals currency. Coherence is your currency. The more coherent you are, the more light your body and your soul like hold, the more light you radiate. So
this goes right back
coherence.
to Oregon energy, and the written word or any kind of word has a massive effect on everything. It's the intention of the word.
Yeah, and yeah, so just like with music or even with cooking and food, there are multiple layers of the equation that influence the potency of that creation. All of the variables are important, and the more of the variables you have in coherence, the more power that creation is going to yield. For example, if not only you have the coherent tuning system in your music that you're using to make the actual music with these coherent ratios, but let's say you also have the coherent divine intention that is 100% in purity and in unconditional love and compassion and the knowingness that everyone all comes from the same force. So when you have all of these variables, it's a more powerful creation.
But it's like if you sit and listen to Mozart or something like that, when they had the correct tuning in all of the musical instruments, the power of the energy going through your body at that time is much more than it is today when they change all the frequencies. Your actual essence of it comes out and radiates.
It's more coherent field, right?
Hell yeah. So yeah, from we're doing all of the layers. We're trying to get coherence from the micro, which would be these micro tonality systems, to the macro, which would be the intention. So it's all about getting all of the systems back into coherence.
Exactly.
So, right.
Do you have more slides? You were saying you're going to get a bit into structured water.
Yeah, I will. I don't know how much time you want to get into this, but I do have some stuff I can get into with water.
Please.
Okay, so yeah, this was just some interesting water experiments I've been doing lately. And I absolutely love the work of Veda Austin, who does incredible experiments with her water freezing technique. And I tried the technique on a couple different frequency combinations to see what would happen. So do you guys want to see what happened?
Yes, please.
Okay. Okay, so let's see. So yeah, basically I just wanted to see if the water would shift in any way if I applied different frequencies applied with either coils or a tuning fork. And again, this experiment was super brief. Like it was just like